When you take the time to create content, how do you make sure that it gets shared? Today, Sharon and I are talking to Matt from Top Advisor Marketing, the podcasting guru, with a unique way of making sure your content is shareable. Matt, what's your secret sauce?
Well, the secret sauce is for advisors to interview and leverage their existing network. The best way for you to get your podcast heard by new people, because that's really what we want. We want new people, new ears, is to interview centers of influence, and not just centers of influence, key people within your community that have larger networks.
I love that idea, because what you're doing is you are funding your own content, but you're actually kind of paying for other people's content. In effect, I guess they get their stuff for free, right?
Right. It's like a 30-minute commercial for how awesome that center of influence is, or that local business person. I'll tell you a very quick story. We have a new client. His podcast is called Business in Paradise, and he lives in this unbelievable place in Florida. All his podcast is him interviewing these really well-known people within Palm Springs. And he just had a guy on who was Michael Jordan's agent. And what's going to happen now is that podcast is going to be shared by Michael Jordan's agent to his entire network, which is going to expose our advisor to a whole bunch of new people. And people love sharing podcasts about themselves, especially if it doesn't have anything to do with them talking about themselves, right? That's the important piece. When you're interviewing somebody, it's a different feeling from a auditory consumption standpoint, because, well, guess what? I'm not saying how awesome I am. You're saying how awesome I am.
That's so true, Matt. It's so hard to talk about yourself without sounding like a bad commercial. How do you go about identifying the right people to interview?
I love that question. I love that question because it's easier than a lot of people would think it is. You create a hot list, like a top 25 of people who you really want to interview. You generally start out with people you have relationships with. So that would be, your estate planning attorney, your CPA, maybe like a retirement coach, or, a tax advisor, a local business person that you have a good relationship with, just to get the experience. But then you go for broke. Find that local celebrity who is like the best, most well-known person. And the funny thing is, podcasting is still new enough and fun enough, and people love to be on them. They say yes. It's unbelievable, the people that you can get to come on a podcast, and all you have to do is ask. Now, full disclosure, we have an entire system. It's not just that you pick up the phone. We've got email, and we've got kind of like an agreement, because we want to make sure that they agree to share the podcast with their network. But it's all very, very structured, but we help our advisors choose those people. We'll do some Googling, but most of it is just the line of questions that we ask.
So Matt, as you're ranking people, how important is their social network? Does someone rank really high if they have huge reach, or do you really start with the people you're closer with?
I want you to start with people that you're closer with. We're about 300 episodes in total for the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast, and I would not have wanted to interview Michael Kitces right out of the gate, right? I wanted to get a good 100 under my belt. So that's the most important piece, is just getting the experience, feeling very comfortable with the medium, knowing what question we actually provide them with. The questions. There are 20 questions that have been proven over time that we know work very, very well to tease out good information from people. But after you get that comfort level and you get a couple of those in the can, then you go for broke. And what's the worst thing that happens? They say no, but that's no for now. That's not no forever. Because once you start getting more podcasts in the can, and you're like, hey, you're going to be my special 100th episode, that's really cool. And we find that local celebrities will be on your podcast super fast.
Matt, on your website, I know you have a whole page about micro-influencing. Can you tell us, what does micro-influencing actually mean?
We wanted people to be thought leaders, so we started marketing, hey, you can be a thought leader. That didn't resonate. Like, people are like, I don't want to be a thought leader. That's terrifying, right? And so then we said, how about you be an influencer? So, Kirk Lowe, my business partner, he's the marketing guy. And so he's like, well, let's try influencer. So we tried influencer. Didn't really get the impact, because if you look at influencers, they're really, really big people like a Kitsis or, like an Edelman, and a lot of advisors like, I don't want to be that person. So we're like, well, how about being a micro influencer? And all of a sudden everybody's like, ooh, I want to be a micro influencer. So here's how we define it. A micro influencer is a person who owns, and I mean owns, a specific niche in a specific region, right? That can be local, hyper local, or regional, but also for a really specific kind of expertise. A good example is nurse anesthetists, right? A friend of mine, that's what he does as an advisor. He is the nurse anesthetist guy. He goes to all of their conferences. That's what he has a podcast about it. He owns that vertical. He is truly a micro influencer in that space. And we help advisors figure out what space they want to be in to be a micro influencer, because it's got to be an inch wide and a mile deep. It can't be, well, I work with women. Well, that's 51% of the damn population, people. That's not a niche, right? That's the majority of humans on this planet.
Well, the old adage that you need to specialize to generalize, I think definitely applies to this micro influencer idea. And you've given us some great ideas today, Matt, on how to get your content shared, spread out there, consumed, whether it's a podcast, whether it's video. Thanks for your great ideas. And for more, check out ideadecanter.com.